Hello, friends. This is John Connor III, episode 138 of Shadow and Flame of Magic, the podcast. And today we're going to review X-Men Volume 7, Issue 2. So let's get to it. And so this is Invasion, written by Jed McKay, penciler Ryan Stigman, and inker J.P. Mayer. Colorist is Marte Garcia and Fer Cifuentes Judo? Yes. And I thought this was a huge improvement over the original, the first issue. And as a recap, with the island nation of Krakoa disbanded, mutants find themselves once again displaced across the globe. Among them is a new team of X-Men led by Cyclops and based in a former Sentinel factory in Alaska. The X-Men investigated the activation of 6 new mutants at a facility owned by the Fourth School. The surviving fraction of Orcus seeks to evolve into the new fourth species, a blend of human, mutant, and AI. The X-Men were surprised to find the mutants were all adults and former Orcus agents. During the ensuing battle, these new mutants were forcibly teleported away by a mysterious new organization devoted to equally mysterious great work. And I'll say I'm an easy audience to please. Like, Magik it has a better role in this. She's part of like Cyclops' main team of X-Men. We get just a lot more page space with her and like actual valuable page space. So, you know, so huge improvement. I liked her in the first issue, but I just wanted more or like a more defining world for her in this series. So we find ourselves in San Francisco. There's a character named Ben who um, is worried about alien invasion as he's been abducted before, which must be weird in the Marvel universe where there's just aliens and gods just running around or flying around, flying about, and like imagine everyone's been abducted by aliens at one point or another. I mean, heck, at one point the universe has imprisoned the planet, and other times the universe has like moved Earth. So like we've all would have had issues with aliens at one point or another. And Ben's having like a major migraine, and all of a sudden, he freaks out just as an alien invasion approaches, or invades, I suppose. And Cyclops tells everyone who can listen that he and the X-Men are broadcasting from the Marauder, and they're there to help, which is nice. Um, we get Kid Omega, who is insisted that Cyclops uses his name, and Scott does a weird thing where he like says he doesn't like to use his name, but it's like, I don't know, Cyclops strikes me as a guy who's like, hey, I want to be called Tim now. Like, he will just start calling you Tim. Like, oh, he makes an adjustment in his head and boom. You're now Tim in his head. And he's like, Ileana, status? Well, interact facing with the extra feels weird, but we jumped the Marauder 3,000 miles, so I suppose we call it a win. And he's like, outstanding. And already I'm just like, hey, like he's asking for like advice or, part of his inner console. And so they're gonna see what they can do about finding the new mutant, but also fight off aliens that they still have too. And so he's gonna take Psylocke and Magic on him, and then the rest of the team, which would be Kid Omega, Oya, and Juggernaut, are gonna be on invasion duty. And the way Stigman draws Juggernaut, you can actually see the X from his helmet, and like the lines connect to the X on his chest. So it's like, oh, hey, that's a fun design. So he did that the same for last episode 2 issue as well. So I think he's just proving the design's a quality one. So Kid Omega is going to make it so everyone can use psychic comms. And Magic says, worried about little green men, Cyclops? Worried. I have 2 wily dangerous women with enormous swords looking out for me. When I was 13, I thought this was what heaven looked like. Which Psylocke's not impressed with, but as we've seen 16-year-old Cyclops quite a bit, I bet this is ideally what he would have wanted. And Hank McCoy apparently created a gun on the Marauder so that Juggernaut can like Star Trek torpedo bay himself into anything. So he becomes a Juggernaut bullet, which then he's quick about like nothing can stop the Juggernaut, and it's like oh he said his catchphrase because he likes saying it, and we like hearing it. And Cyclops is realizing there's something weird on the ground as the aliens don't seem right. And Magic's like, objection, none of this is weird to me at all. You're both just nerds. And it's like, oh, Magic. And then Psylocke's like, weren't you raised in a hell dimension? And her sense of normal has to be adjusted. Sayana reports if, fair enough, objection overruled. I just like her and Psylocke just hanging out, where it's like, all right. And so Cyclops recognizes the species is actually two different forms of species, aliens. And Magic grabs one by the throat. It's like, well, why don't we ask one? And I played Midnight Suns a bunch. You think I have a decent Magic impression, but I can't get my mind around it. I don't know, and I guess I'm a little confused by the whole Oya Juggernaut. So I guess there's a giant gun and Juggernaut can be fired from it, but it takes Oya to ignite to pull the trigger on it. Then Cyclops, Psylocke, and Magic can see from the ground that they just used the human railgun as Cyclops causing alien. It's like they shot Juggernaut out of the mothership like a bullet. I love it. It's like, oh, always good to see an idea come together. And then the mothership is lighting up like from Independence Day. Look, the saucers, the mothership, when they get destroyed, they just disintegrate, fade away into smoke. Didn't you notice the battle suits doing the same when we trashed them? And Scott realizes that it's not alien invasion. It must be their mutant who has a low-level reality warping abilities. But before they can get through there, they have to fight. Magic summarizes it with, looks like we're fighting our way through it. And Scott's like, problem? He's like, never. And so they're just going to keep fighting. We catch up to Ben, it does appear all the aliens are coming for Ben. And with a Zerak, Cyclops has blasted all the aliens. And Ben asks if there were the aliens. Scott asks, no, we're with you. And Psylocke picks up on the cue and be like, oh, his name is Ben. Like, we're with you, Ben. And it's like, oh. Because with de-escalation, they do like tell you, like, get to know who your opposing person is. Maybe ask them their name, find a common ground, and see if you can use that common information to, de-escalate the situation. And then Ben's freaking out because he doesn't want to be a mutant, nor does he want aliens attacking. And so with a giant blast from his eyes, the three of them get knocked back. It is interesting that every single title has new mutants in them. At least series has at least magic in it. But yeah, I guess every book's introducing new ones. So as any good era does, we're just gonna throw at least 8 to 10 new mutants into the new era and see what sticks. And then Scott tells everyone to use psychic comms only and do not speak aloud. Then we get a fun panel where they're all going dot dot dot. And Scott does talk aloud and say okay. And then we see Ben not calming down because when has anyone ever calmed down from that? And Ben does not want to be captured by aliens or captured by anybody, and so he just thinks himself away and he's gone. And Scott's upset. Psylocke tells them all to Kid Omega to pick him up. And I should say that I've been Gwenpool has come to Fortnite, and I've only read her in that Rocket Raccoon and Groot series, where she guest starred and Kitty Pryde's in it. I want to say it's issue 8 or 10, I want to say. And she makes a fun observation of how Bendis is a big fan of Kitty Pryde, which as am I, so I get it. And that one, I want to say that was Christopher Hastings who wrote Rocket Raccoon and Groot, and he wrote Gwenpool for a lot of the run. And then I read Leah Williams' Gwenpool Strikes Back, as well as Kelly Thompson's West Coast Avengers to get some more fun Gwenpool content. And Kelly Thompson wrote a very fun Quentin Quire in that series. Not only just a fun Quentin Quire, but also a likable Quentin. So I was like, all right. And they were back at the faculty, Alaska, and Beast, Cyclops, and Magneto. Magneto's still in that chair, so is he confined to the chair, or is he just taking it easy? We don't know that yet. Except Magneto is wearing like a nice like business suit, but with his helmet on. And we see that Ben is just sleeping as they faked his death, and now they're gonna just observe him now. And next, Scott Summers versus the United States of America. And then there's a backup for Wolverine and Deadpool that, I don't know, may be fun, but. And it's written by Ryan North, so it is fun, but it's also like, oh man, after that great issue of X-Men, I sort of want more X-Men and not Deadpool and Wolverine. Like, alright. But I understand people are clamoring for more Deadpool and Wolverine content, so, here's some more. Now I'm trying to get to the. Oh yeah, and then we get to the bullpen information, and I lost it. And we're getting closer to Exceptional X-Men with each new week. But there's a whole paragraph here about missing everyone's favorite dragon. Check out the new Lockheed Infinity comic for the misadventures of the X-Men's resident pet fire breather. Following in the footsteps of Friday funnies like It's Jeff and Alligator Loki, see Lockheed do his best to stay out of trouble with the likes of Kitty Pryde, Wolverine, Storm, Nightcrawler, and Colossus. Written and drawn by Nathan Stockman, who I followed immediately on Twitter and Instagram, and was just like, oh yeah, I like this guy's work. I've read it before. This new Infinity comic can only be found on the Marvel Unlimited app every Friday starting September 6th. So I don't know if Lockheed's going to get like 4 um story segments or is it all going to be one, but coming September we're going to get monthly Kitty and Lockheed content. So I'm super excited about that. And it does seem like we are calling her Kitty now. So we're back to that. Okay, let's go to Marvel.com and see what came out last week. So Wolverine 4. So some people, which I guess enough people are reading it where literally they announced a new ongoing for it. So that's fun. If that's your cup of tea. Sensational She-Hulk ended, which is unfortunate. Wolverine Infinity Watch was a thing. And X Factor 1, which people are calling it modern day aesthetics, which is like I can see that. I also got the Suicide Squad vibes from it, where we think you're following one team of Angel, Wolfsbane, Richter, who's now going by Fire Fist, like his character from Deadpool 2, and they go on a disastrous mission against Dark Star, the Russian mutant, and they don't fail miserably, but take a lot of casualties or prisoners, and we don't know if Richter or Wolfsbane are dead or just beaten. But then the issue ends with Havoc creating a new X Factor with Dr. Cecilia Reyes and Frenzy, which I really wish Pharaoh. Oh my, did I say Wolfsbane earlier? I meant Pharaoh. Um, and Farrell was on the second team, so that she was at least living. And it's very humorous. Like they have a parody of TikTok called Click Clock, and I don't know. It's just clearly a humor book, and if you're not on board for that, it's not going to be for you. And besides the nice roster and seeing two groups of mutants, it's not a book for me, I don't think. But I do like Frenzy and Dr. Reyes, so I at least read the second issue. But that was that. And so ranking them now, because I got to the checklist for August. So I'll still say Uncanny X-Men's the number one book. X-Men number two for Magik. The X-Force 3 for Rachel. MIX at 4. 5 would be Avengers 17 or with Storm. And then I guess I'll go Phoenix and then X Factor for 5 and 6. Yeah, so we're not quite at 10 titles, but we will get to 10. So let's click some buttons and figure out what's coming out next week. Or no, I'm sorry, this week. On August 21st, Giant Size Thor comes out, which seems like Giant Size should always be X-Men related in my heart of hearts. Deadpool 5, if you want to consider him an X-Men title. Namor 2, which I thought the first issue was okay. Phoenix 2 is going to involve Jean Grey and Corsair. So great to see some father-daughter-in-law action there. And and Jonathan Hickman's and Greg Capullo's Wolverine Revenge comes out. So we'll see how that goes. And then Hickman also has Ultimate Spider-Man 8. But Hickman's not enough of a writer to get me to read Wolverine mini, but we'll check it out to see, or at least to get me excited to read a Wolverine solo miniseries. So, so I doubt Wolverine Revenge or Phoenix 2 is going to have enough Magic or Kitty or Lockheed content to warrant being the main feature. So I'm going to see what back issue I can grab for um the next episode. I mentioned Fortnite. If you go to my YouTube channel, Jackal SII, I've just been doing a bunch of Fortnite content. There's secret Gwenpool missions that don't show up in the story tab, but do once you talk to her at the raft. I did a second live stream playing as Colossus, where I just used one of my Traversos emotes a match and until I get eliminated. And since the new season has Emma Frost at the raft, I've just been hanging out in front of there, and people had just been slaying me. But one time Emma slayed Colossus, and that was fun to watch. Um, and then I'm also on TikTok at Jackal SII, the same, and as well as Twitter. And then the podcast accounts on Instagram and Twitter are SNFWM. And of course, the flagship that launched everything, the website, shadowandflamewithmagic.com, where I've pretty much been um, memorizing all my Twitter projects. I just wrapped up Ultimate Comics X-Men, and this week we should wrap up the all new Ultimates. And I don't quite remember what comes out after that, but that's what you can expect on Twitter. So, everyone, thank you so much for listening. And please ask a friend to listen and subscribe as we keep trying to grow the podcast. But thank you, dear listener, for listening. Really appreciate you and taking the time. And I will talk to you next time. All right, everyone. Bye.